Warning, playing FPL is highly addictive. It may cause stress, a loss of free time, a resentment towards friends or colleagues, and a dislike to football in general. Please, FPL responsibly.
Welcome back to the Fixture Watch, the series that uses the official FPL fixture difficulty ratings to determine which teams have a good or bad run of fixtures over the next 5 game weeks. The first thing to note in this episode of the Fixture Watch is that we soon have a blank game week approaching in game week 27, and what this means is that particular teams don't have a fixture that game week due to clashes with the League Cup final. So, 4 teams miss out in total, with Brighton, Everton, Man City and Chelsea all missing from game week 27, and therefore not scoring FPL points for that week. Be sure to keep this in mind when making your future transfers. At the top end of the FDR table from game week 26 is lots of the mid to lower table sides, with both Cardiff and Newcastle avoiding top 6 opposition in the next 5 game weeks. From a defensive point of view, Cardiff boast 4 clean sheets in their last 7, so they could provide some good budget options with 3 of their next 5 games being played at home. As for Newcastle, their next fixture is away to an informed Wolves, and given the way Wolves are playing at the moment, it's not an ideal fixture to own Newcastle players for. However, following that game, they then play 3 home games in their next 4, hosting Huddersfield, Burnley and Everton. So with Newcastle improving a bit lately, some of their options could be worth a punt at both ends of the pitch. Speaking of punts, their new signing Almiron has been bought to bring some creativity into this Newcastle side, and you couldn't ask for a much better fixture list to help get the playmaker settled. The Paraguayan scored 13 goals and provided 11 assists in the MLS last season, and granted that may be an easier league, but it's decent stats if you fancy a complete differential at 6 million. Also towards the top of the FDR table is Brighton, and as mentioned they do have that blank game week in game week 27, and that's something to definitely take note of. But besides that, their fixtures are still good for the majority of the season, and at least at their price point they're cheap enough to bench when those blanks do arrive. As things stand, Brighton currently play 4 of their next 6 games at home against Burnley, Huddersfield, Cardiff and Southampton, so there's definitely potential for a few clean sheets there, with Brighton being a very tough side to beat at the Amex. From an FPL perspective, midfielder Pascal Gross has become a bit of a forgotten man this season, but interestingly, in the last 4 game weeks he's created the most chances of any midfielder in the league, so with just 1.6% ownership he could be a decent differential given these nice fixtures. Depending on how Brighton's FA Cup campaign goes, there is chance of a further blank game week in game week 31, but that also means they could be looking at 2 double game weeks before the season ends, so it might not be a bad thing to just hold on to them through those blank weeks. I'll touch upon this more in a future episode of the Fixture Watch, when more info on these blanks and doubles becomes clear. Another team with notably good fixtures is Wolverhampton Wanderers, who do have a fixture in game week 27 and have what look to be 4 plum matches on the bounce now. Wolves are in great form at the moment, winning 3 games in a row and scoring 10 goals in the process. So with Newcastle, Bournemouth, Huddersfield and Cardiff in the next 4, it'd be hard to ignore their options. Understandably, Jimenez and Matt Doherty are already owned by a large proportion of FPL managers now, due to their great value and consistency since the beginning of the season. But if they're not in your team already, in my opinion it's still not too late to buy them because of this nice run of games. As for a differential, Diogo Jota looks to be the man to go to, with him still only having a low 3.5% ownership. The midfielder has now returned FPL points in 6 of his last 7 Premier League appearances, with a hugely impressive 5 goals and 4 assists in that spell, so he's definitely a player I'm considering despite already owning the other 2. Another side I'll be keeping tabs on personally is Leicester City. Granted, they do face Spurs away next, but it's following that game where things look very nice for the Foxes. From game week 27 onwards, Leicester have an incredible run of games right through to game week 35, and within those 9 game weeks, 7 of them have a difficulty rating of 2. In the game weeks following Spurs, they face Palace, Brighton, Watford and Fulham, with 3 of those being at home. The player most firmly on my radar is Ricardo Pereira, who despite being listed as a defender, has often been deployed in a more attacking role for Leicester this season. Impressively, he's currently their top FPL point scorer with 2 goals and 5 assists already, and at 5.3 million he looks to be a very convenient replacement for Everton's Luca Digne, with Everton blanking in game week 27. I think Ben Chilwell could also provide good value from their defence, whilst Maddison and Jamie Vardy also remain big differentials, with both attacking players being owned by less than 4% of FPL managers. As we go a bit further down the FDR table, another side with very notable fixtures is Arsenal, mainly for their next 3 games in particular. In the next 3 game weeks, the Gunners face Huddersfield, Southampton and Bournemouth. And that Southampton fixture is more significant because it's a game week where Chelsea and Man City blank, and Liverpool and United face each other. So Arsenal options like Aubameyang look even more appealing for the captaincy during that tricky week. Now, they do shortly face Spurs and United in back-to-back fixtures, which isn't ideal, but the good news is following those 2, their fixtures remain very nice all the way until the end of the season. In fact, these games against Spurs and United are the only 2 left where Arsenal face top 6 opposition, so Arsenal could provide good options for the long term now. So let's move down towards the bottom of the FDR table now, and check out some teams with a much less favourable run. And as always, if you find this content helpful, then please consider supporting FPL TV by dropping a like on the video, and most importantly, getting subscribed to the channel. Sitting at the very bottom is Bournemouth, who face a very tricky spell in the next 4 game weeks. Now, just because of the bad fixtures doesn't mean you have to get rid of Bournemouth players at this point, but it could be something you want to consider, given that they face Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City and an informed Wolves in the next 4. And with Callum Wilson and David Brooks injured at the moment, could this affect their performances and affect the appeal of Joshua King and Ryan Fraser in the next few weeks? On the positive, a key thing to note is that Bournemouth are now confirmed to avoid any blank game weeks this season, so at least you know you can field them every week if you do own their players. Personally, I'll be looking back to Bournemouth from game week 30 onwards, where their fixtures become much better for the remainder of the season, and hopefully Wilson and Brooks could be back in the side by then. Also towards the bottom of the FDR table from game week 26 is Chelsea, who notably have that blank fixture in game week 27. Chelsea bounced back with an impressive 5-0 win over Huddersfield last time out, and it certainly made Higuain look excellent value for money at 9.5 million. After scoring 2 well-taken goals, he's definitely a player on my watch list as a potential differential, but it's important not to forget that they were playing bottom of the league, and with an away trip to Man City next, followed by that blank game week, getting him now may not be the best option at this point. Following that blank week, Chelsea then face Spurs straight after, which is 3 game weeks that don't look great on paper. So be sure to keep this tough run in mind if you own Eden Hazard still, because benching a player worth 11 million could be quite costly during the blank game week. Chelsea's run of games does improve significantly from game week 29 though, starting with an away trip to Fulham, so perhaps this may be the best time to start considering them again. Other teams towards the bottom include Man City, who are pretty much fixture proof, but they do have that notable blank game week after facing Chelsea, which isn't ideal given their price. Things do very much improve following that blank week though, so holding on to their players is still an option with West Ham at home to follow. Southampton also find themselves towards the bottom, who do have some nice rotatable home games, but they have to play Arsenal, United and Tottenham in 3 of the next 5. With a difficulty rating of 18 in total, Watford are another side placed at the bottom of the FDR table, but this is mainly due to 2 fixtures in particular, with the Hornets facing Liverpool and Man City away in 2 of their next 5. If I did own Watford players, I'm not sure this would entirely put me off, because I actually don't mind their next 2, with Everton and Cardiff still to play. The issue though is that their fixtures remain inconsistent now for the majority of the season, and there's basically a pattern to their fixtures, with 1 very tough game followed by 1 easy one and so on. So you may find yourself wanting to bench them every other game week, with Liverpool, Man City and United all coming up soon. Therefore, if you are to keep them, you may need some decent options as backup for these difficult weeks. And that wraps up this instalment of the Fixture Watch. I really hope you found this analysis useful, and if so, be sure to get subscribed to FPL TV. Remember, these episodes aren't designed to tell you who to buy and sell, but merely to provide you with more information so you can make your own informed decision. I'll catch you all very soon for my team selection video, so until then, FPL responsibly.